Is this thing on? Welcome back to Big Mouth and fancy seeing you here in Jew. A very welcome, my friends, and especially my enemies. Come in, sit down, no touching. I don't do the touching. And welcome to Wednesday's edition of the dceu Daily, which will be predominantly talking about the Joker movie and the Aurora victims writing to Warner Brothers, telling them about the concerns of this movie. So I'm going to read a couple of articles here. First of all, I'm going to focus on the Hollywood Reporter article that focuses on the Aurora victims' letter to Warner Brothers. Then I'll read out the article with Warner Brothers' response to them. And then we're going to talk about the permutations here and what's really going on behind the scenes with this movie. So, Aurora shooting victims voice fears over Joker in letter to Warner Brothers. Todd Phillips' dark take on the Batman villain will not play at the theatre where a massacre took place during a 2012 screening of The Dark Knight Rises, as family members of those killed asked the studio to donate to gun victim charities. Shall I tell you what's going on here? Right. They've used the Joker movie as part of their platform because they know this is a big blockbuster movie and they can get a lot of light shined into this. Now, I think that Warner Brothers not playing this film at this theatre is very, very sensitive. But also, did they play Avengers: Infinity War at this cinema, where a villain wanted to commit mass genocide to half of the galaxy? Of course, it played at that cinema, and this is where agendas come in. Now, I have nothing but sympathy with these victims and their families, but to focus on a studio and to focus on a film is totally the wrong way to go. And we'll talk more about that in a minute. Family members of those killed in the July 2012 mass shooting at a screening of The Dark Knight Rises in Aurora, Colorado, have signed a letter to Warner Brothers, sharing concerns about the upcoming Joker film and asking the studio to donate to groups that aid victims of gun violence. We are calling on you to be part of the growing chorus of corporate leaders who understand that they have a social responsibility to keep us all safe. No, Warner Brothers and other corporate leaders don't have the responsibility to keep you safe, and they cannot keep you safe. How about you go around trying to get the police and the FBI to make sure cinemas are more secure, that there's better security at cinemas, so this can never happen again. You focusing on a movie studio doesn't stop this from happening again. The Dark Knight Rises isn't the reason those guys went in there, or this guy, or whoever it was, and killed your relatives and your loved ones and your friends, right? That's not why it happened. It is not the responsibility of a studio to keep you safe. And that agenda and that narrative is so wrong. 7 years have passed since James Holmes, clad in full body armour and armed with multiple guns, including an assault rifle, terrorised the Aurora Cinema Theatre, murdering 12 people and injuring 70 during a screening of Christopher Nolan's Batman film. Now, as Warner Brothers gears up for the October the 4th release of Todd Phillips' R-rated Joker, which is attracting attention for its gritty, realistic violence, as well as for its artistry and the performance of star Joaquin Phoenix, some survivors and relatives of the victims are expressing fears about the film. I don't need to see a picture of Holmes. I just need to see a Joker promo, and I see a picture of the killer. Really? Really? So, when you saw Jared Leto's Joker, did you feel the same? Listen, this is ridiculous. We cannot ban images of the Joker. This is crazy. This is opportunistic. This is not about the victims. This is not about how they feel about their friends and family. This is an opportunity. So where are we? Says Sandy Phillips, whose 24-year-old daughter, Jessica Garvey, was among the slain. Sandy Phillips, no relation to the film's director, who with her husband Lonnie created the non-profit group Survivors Empowered, worked with Igor Volsky of the gun control advocacy group Guns Down America to craft a letter to Warner Brothers, which was signed by 5 family members of victims and sent Tuesday morning. In an interview, Sandy Phillips says that Joker, which centres on the isolated and mentally ill anti-hero who becomes Batman's eventual arch-nemesis, is like a slap in the face. She adds that she's concerned about audiences connecting to and even emulating the film's protagonist in a cultural climate where mass shootings have become commonplace. Listen, what these Aurora victims and their families are doing is brilliant. They're trying to help with these stupid archaic gun laws in America. But to connect the Joker to any of this is ridiculous. Ridiculous, I tell you. My worry is that one person who may be out there and who knows, if it is just one who is on the edge, who is wanted to be a mass shooter, may be encouraged by this movie. And that terrifies me, she says. Yes, so we shouldn't show people drinking or smoking just in case people get ideas. We shouldn't show any violence. We shouldn't tell cautionary tales just in case someone decides to do something, which if someone's going to decide to do something, they're going to do it anyway. Let's be clear here. One theatre that apparently will not be showing Joker, Century, Aurora and the XD, the remoulded venue where the shooting took place. The theatre chain did not respond to a request for comment, but as of Monday night, no showtimes were listed online for Joker at the Aurora Multiplex, and the theatre employee told THR that advanced ticket purchases were not available because the film will not be shown at the venue. As I say, it's ridiculous. It's sensitive, but it's also ridiculous. The letter addressed to new Warner Bros. CEO Ann Sarnoff does not seek to halt the release of the film, nor to rally gun critics to boycott. It asks the studio to end political contributions to candidates who take money from the NRA and vote against gun reform, which is great, and use your political clout and leverage in Congress to actively lobby for gun reform, which Warner Bros. Already does, by the way. Keeping everyone safe should be a top corporate priority for Warner Bros. Warner Bros. Can't keep anyone safe. It's as simple as that. But anyway, the letter states that the shooting was perpetrated by a socially isolated individual who felt wronged by society and acted as a result. We have committed ourselves to ensuring that no other family ever has to go through the absolute hell we have experienced and the pain we continue to live with. Trust us, it does not go away. It probably doesn't go away. It must be terrible. It must be devastating. But whatever you do, it is going to happen again. People are going to die. And all we can do is keep on fighting against these archaic laws. But focusing on a studio isn't going to work. Warner Bros. Released the following statement on Tuesday. We've got the statement here, so I don't have to read another article about this. Right, okay. Afternoon. Gun violence in our society is a critical issue, and we extend our deepest sympathy to all victims and families impacted by these tragedies. Our company has a long history of donating to victims of violence, including Aurora, and in recent weeks our parent company joined the other business leaders to call on policymakers to enact bipartisan legislation to address this epidemic. At the same time, Warner Bros. Believes that one of the functions of storytelling is to provoke difficult conversations around complex issues. Absolutely. Those who signed the letter to Warner Bros. Are Sandy and Lonnie Phillips Heather Dearman, whose cousin Ashley Moser was severely wounded and lost her unborn child due to her injuries, and whose 6-year-old daughter, Veronica Moser Sullivan, was killed. Teresa Hoover, whose 18-year-old son, Alexander J. Boyk, was killed, and Tina Kuhn, whose son witnessed the shooting. Holmes, convicted of 24 counts of first-degree murder and now serving life in prison with no possibility of parole, will be forever linked to the Batman film in the days following the massacre. He was compared to the Joker character because he sported bright dyed hair, and according to a now debunked report at the time, called himself the Joker. You see, it has nothing to do with the Joker. It's all bullshit. It's all lies. And this is what really gets me. As he was being arrested, Daniel Oates, Aurora's chief of police at the time, maintains there is no evidence Holmes ever said that. And he didn't. He didn't. But there's agendas against Warner Brothers. There's agendas against DC. There's so many different agendas out there. And I'll talk about Disney's agenda maybe near the end of the video or the end of us talking about this. Nevertheless, says Oates, every time there is a mass shooting or in the collective media culture a portrayal of a mass shooting or an evil character who engages in the wanton, random, senseless killing of innocents, we are all traumatized again. Sandy Phillips expands on that. For me, it's the grotesque. Forget the long word. It's the violence that this film glorifies and elevates with the Joker character. First of all, Sandy, have you seen the film? Because if you had seen the film, you'd actually realise that what you're saying is absolute bullshit. Let me reiterate what she said. For me, it's the violence that this film glorifies and elevates with the Joker character. It does not glorify violence. It does everything to show you the consequences of violence, the damage that violence can do to people. This is a cautionary tale. It's supposed to scare you. So, Sandy, you are absolutely wrong. And you, my friend, and I'm sorry for what's happened to you and your friends and your family, you, my friend, are an opportunist. The letter from Aurora victims comes at a sensitive time for Warner Bros., which is marketing the hard R-rated crime drama differently from typical all-audience superhero pictures. While early tracking suggests a $75 million film will open to more than $80 million domestically, Phoenix briefly excused himself from a recent interview to consult with Warner's PR when he asked if he felt the performance might inspire actual acts of violence. So the point is, he didn't storm out of that interview, like Walls said. He intelligently went to talk to his PR team to make sure he said the right thing and didn't elevate the situation, which was very, very responsible by Joaquin. In a piece published on Monday, Phoenix told IGN, well, I think that for most of us, you're able to tell the difference between right and wrong. So I don't think it is the responsibility of a filmmaker to teach the audience morality or the difference between right or wrong. I mean, to me, I think that's obvious. And in fact, the film pretty much is saying the guy is wrong, but he's also been let down by society. It's a double-edged sword. Films like this need to be made. We can't just sit there tickling people under the chin. It is ridiculous. And Todd Phillips told IGN, the movie makes statements about a lack of love, childhood trauma, lack of compassion in the world. I think people can handle that message, he said. It's so, to me, bizarre when people say, oh, well, I could handle it. But imagine if you can't. It's making judgments for other people, and I don't even want to bring up the movies in the past that they said this about, because it's shocking and embarrassing when you go, oh my God, do the right thing. They said that about that movie too. Phoenix's complex portrayal of Arthur Fleck, who eventually becomes the Joker, is very different from the cartoonish supporting character played by Jared Leto in the 2016 PG-13 rated Suicide Squad. Todd Phillips' hyper-realistic Joker roots the villain's origin story in a dark, grounded tale. And the violence at times with a gun is brutal and jarring. Yes, it's supposed to show you how bad violence is, and that's a good film. The film won raves at its Venice International Film Festival premiere this year, taking the top prize and generating Oscar buzz for Phoenix. THR critic David Rooney called the actor's portrayal riveting, both unsettling and weirdly affecting. Oates, who retired in the June after nearly 39 years in law enforcement, says he believes the timing of Joker is poor, noting that 3 mass shootings in the past 3 months at the Gilroy Garlic Festival in Gilroy, California, where 3 people were killed on July 28th. The massacre in El Paso, Texas, where 22 people were killed on August the 3rd. And then the following day, the shootings in Dayton, Ohio, where 9 people were killed. Fears of being re-traumatized by Joker are legitimate. No, they're not, explains Dr. Kibra Kazan. And Dr. Deborah Kazan, are you working for Disney, by the way? I'm just wondering, right? Anyway, a professor in Stanford University's Department of Psychiatry and Behavioral Sciences, during a trauma, there are so many cues that are happening around the trauma itself. It could be your heart racing, it could be the sounds or the smell, or what's happening in the space, says Kaysen, who specializes in PTSD. So that certainly happens when people go through truly horrifying events, like the Aurora shooting, both for people who were there, but also the people who lost loved ones. I'm sorry, Deborah, or whatever your bloody name is, you're talking nonsense. At the end of the day, those people will be traumatized, and anything can set off memories. We can't just sit there. Life has to go on. As horrible as that sounds, and artists should be able to make the films they want to make. At the end of the day, this is a film that's being very responsible and trying to tell you a cautionary tale. And you're talking absolute nonsense. Poor timing. When would be better timing? The world is bad. The world is dark. People are dying all the time. We need to escape. We need stories. We need compelling storytelling. I'm sorry. I'm sorry if you're an SJW who's scared of the world and scared to see anything. That's your problem. Lock yourself in your house and don't watch anything. But for me and millions of people around the world, we are thankful for the Joker movie, for what Todd Phillips and Joaquin Phoenix have done, and we wish you just shut the hell up. Thank you. Joker could trigger victims' PTSD for multiple reasons, she says. It's topically related. It's in the same comic book universe. The trauma is also movie associated, and it's a violent storyline, so you have a compounding of those networks or those cues. Basically, everything's a cue in life. Everything. You've got to live and breathe in the real world. I'm sorry about that. That's just the way that it is. Aurora survivors Pierce O'Farrell, who was shot multiple times and still has a bullet lodged in his arm, says he suffered his first panic attack since the massacre about 8 months ago. It occurred in a movie theatre. What were you doing in a movie theatre? And all these people are getting paid for what they're saying, by the way, and I am sorry for what happened to them. Absolutely. Let me be clear about that. I'm being very insensitive in this video because I'm passionate about DC, and I'm fed up of people finding any little excuse to knock us and to knock our creatives and to knock our artists. And it goes back to Zack Snyder. It goes back to Bryan Singer's Superman Returns. I am sick and tired of it, and I'm not going to take it anymore. Not that I've ever taken it. It had nothing to do with the movie, O'Farrell explained. I don't know what it was, but I have a PTSD attack, and all those memories came flooding back, and I had to get myself out of the theatre. You shouldn't have been in the theatre, my friend, and your psychiatrist should have told you that if you've got one. You just never know what can trigger it, and I sympathise with those folks who are concerned about this film. But not all family members of Aurora victims are against the film. You mean the sane ones, right? Tom Sullivan, whose 27-year-old son, Alex, was killed in the massacre, says he does not believe Joker will jumpstart somebody to commit acts of violence. I don't think that seeing something is the catalyst to, okay, that is what I'm going to start to do, says Sullivan. Now a Democratic state representative in Colorado, he also says that he still enjoys Batman films. Wow! And it doesn't trigger your PTSD? That's amazing! Wow! He also says that he still enjoys Batman films, but the Joker character is his least favourite, so he has no interest in the Phoenix-led movie. Sullivan introduced presidential candidate Beto O'Rourke at a town all last week in Aurora, where the Democratic politician again called for rounding up high-powered assault weapons amid his platform of stronger gun control. And all sane people should support that. That's nothing to do with the Joker movie. Sullivan says he would support Warner Brothers adding a blurb at the end of the beginning of the movie about directing people to organisations for mental health. That's fair enough. O'Farrell says he supports the idea of Warner Brothers donating to relevant causes. Still, the self-described comic book nerd says he thinks Joker looks entertaining. I do want to see it, he says. I think it looks interesting. I don't know that I'll see it in the theatre, but I'll definitely see the film, continues O'Farrell. If people were trying to shut down the film, I would have a strong opinion against that because I'm kind of an old school constitutionalist and I think Warner Brothers has the right to make any kind of film they want. Absolutely, young man. Mr. O'Farrell, you are a gentleman. I want to meet you and shake you by the hand. A brave person who's been through something but understands the reality of the situation. Thank you, my friend. You can WhatsApp call me on this channel anytime and we can talk about that. I can't pay you, but we can talk about that. And that, my friends, is the end of part 1 of today's video. I will be back with more. Well, I won't be back. I'll be back in a split second. I just have to pause. It's become very clear to me what the CW is becoming. And they're very political. They're very anti-male. And basically, in the end, all their shows will be female-led. So let's read this article. We all know that Arrow's going to be airing its final season this year, which is all part of the Crisis on Infinite Earths. And they showed a trailer yesterday. It looks okay. My only interest really is the Smallville kind of cameos. I'm not really interested in this franchise. I don't trust the creatives. I don't like the creators. I don't like what they're pushing, and this sums it all up. Arrow, female-led spin-off in the works at the CW. The potential series will air as a backdoor pilot during the show's final season. The CW is not quite ready to say goodbye to Star City. The network is developing a spin-off of Arrow that would centre on 3 of its female characters, Catherine McNamara, Maya Smoke, yes, this is why she was created in the first place, Green Arrow, and the Canaries, Katie Cassidy's Laurel Lance, and Julian Harkavy's Diana Drake. The potential series is set to air as a backdoor pilot in Arrow's 10-episode final season. So not enough, they've only got 10 episodes to finish off Oliver's story. We've got these 3 female characters who are also going to dominate this final series in a backdoor pilot for their own show. Ridiculous, outrageous, and politically motivated. Which begins October the 15th. Showrunner Beth Schwartz, Mark Guggenheim, June Bach, and Oscar Ballar are co-writing the episode and will serve as executive producers along with Greg Berlanti and Sarah Schechter of Berlanti Productions, which produces all of the CW's DC comic series in association with Warner Brothers TV. The CW president Mark Pedowitz told reporters in August that the door was open to another spin-off of Arrow, which spawned the connected universe that also encompasses The Flash, Legends of Tomorrow, Supergirl, and soon-to-debut Batwoman, and of course Black Lightning, which will probably be the only male-led show in a moment. More of that in a moment. Nothing is ever 100% done, Pedowitz said at the time. You learnt that over time. There's a possibility, but we haven't had a discussion about what that storyline will do. As we plot the next generation of DC shows, there is another property we're looking at for the following season. Well, that's not really a property, is it? That's just a spin-off. Anyway, who knows? The CW announced in March that Arrow's 8th season would be its last. This was a difficult decision to come to, but like every hard decision we've made for the past 7 years, it was with the best interest of Arrow in mind, Schwartz, Berlanti and Guggenheim said in a joint statement. No, it's not. You cancelled a male-led show so you could bring in a female-led show because you have a political agenda and you have this intolerance and hatred for males and male-led shows. That is the fact. We're heartened by the fact that Arrow has birthed an entire universe of shows that will continue on for many years to come. We're excited about the crafting a conclusion that honours the show, its characters and its legacy, and you don't have a legacy, and are grateful to all the writers, producers and actors, and more importantly, the incredible crew that has sustained us on the show for over 7 years. The pilot order arrives as the CW is weeks away from launching the next phase of its Arrowverse with Ruby Rose-led Batwoman. Pedowitz has been open about entering what he called the next generation of his DC shows. The younger skewing network's current roster includes The Flash, Legends of Tomorrow, Supergirl, and Black Lightning. Let's look at this. Right, apart from The Flash, Legends of Tomorrow is basically female-led, right? Supergirl is female-led, and Black Lightning's basically male-led. So let me give you a scenario before I finish this article. I think Flash will be the next show to be cancelled. I believe maybe Iris West and Caitlin will get their spin-off from there. What they are doing here, they are downgrading Arrowverse. They are downgrading DC on the CW. And shall I tell you part of the reason for that is? It is because of their agenda, and they want a female kind of led superhero verse on the CW because that's where their agendas lie, right? But also, DC Universe is going to be the place for awesome, diverse, epic superhero TV shows. So WB have decided that. That's where the money is. That's what they want to attract people to. So basically, they're cancelling characters and shows that they're going to be putting in other mediums. So now the CW are left with very, very few names. So what they're going to do now is talk about representation and have a whole lot of female-led superhero shows. Now, for me personally, I absolutely love both Canaries, right? I don't know about Maya Smoke because, to be honest with you, I didn't watch last season. But I like those two characters. Maybe I would be interested, maybe I wouldn't. But the whole point is here, the agenda. I have not liked the agenda that the CW and Berlanti have been perpetrating with these shows for many seasons now. And it really does worry me for the future of broadcasting and entertainment. Berlanti, meanwhile, currently has a TV record, 19 live action scripted shows in the works and several more in development across multiple broadcast networks and premium cable to Showtime. The prolific producer continues to help launch new writers and program nearly two-thirds of the CW's full primetime lineup. Via his $400 million overall deal with Warner's, Berlanti has clauses in his contract that provide bonuses for reaching a certain number of shows. Which I think is pathetic. It's not the amount of shows or the amount of seasons you do, it's the quality. And the problem is, apart from a couple of his shows, the quality and the predominant amount of his shows are just not good enough. The Arrowverse has become a network-defining brand for the CW, with The Flash. It's keeping them afloat, basically, ranking as its most watched original series. Let's say with The Flash ranking its most watched original series, the decision to do yet another spin-off from Arrow comes as the network is saying goodbye to the flagship, as well as the long-running staple Supernatural this year. Another male-led show, by the way. This year, last season, the CW parted ways with the critical darlings Jane the Virgin and Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. With both of those female-focused shows having ruptured, the network is leaning deeper into female-fronted programming with Batwoman and now this Arrow spin-off. Yes, my point exactly. This is the CW's first pilot order of 2019. Basically, right, it's quite simple. It's a pilot order, and pilot orders don't always go through to seasons, but this will, because Berlanti will push it through. Anything that Berlanti wants, Berlanti gets. I mean, I think it's quite sickening that one producer, one creative, is dominating one network, and I think that's very frightening, because how does anyone else get an opportunity at the CW? They don't. So this is a show, I suppose, a female-led show that could actually do well. When you hear the list of creatives on this, it could be interesting. I like Mark Guggenheim. He's a very, very clever creative. It'll be interesting what they come up with this. So the aspect is with this, it could be interesting. But always what ruins what these people do is like Batwoman, right? Batwoman could be an awesome TV show, but when you watch a trailer and she's putting down men in it, you think, I can't watch this. How, as a man, am I supposed to watch this? You're purposely putting down my gender. And that's not how you create great female-led TV. Alias, Sydney Bristow didn't put down a man once, but she was an awesome character, and men and women both enjoyed the show. But it's the agenda, it's the far left again. They are just very, very crazy people, and they're driving people away from their platforms. So I've already discussed yesterday that I think that Matt Reeves' The Batman is an Elseworld story. I don't think it's a reboot. I think, how can you reboot something in a universe that hasn't been rebooted? But this is the thing, isn't it? You see, I can't tell you much about Wonder Woman 1984 one way or the other, but I suppose it all depends what you see from that movie, and if that helps create this reboot. Maybe that's part of it, or maybe it's not part of it. I'm not going to tell you. But yes, at the moment, a lot of people are in the dark about how the Batman can cast Jeffrey Wright as Commissioner Gordon, when obviously he's a man of colour, and obviously J.K. Simmons isn't. How can that work if they're in the same universe? So it's very interesting. One thing's for sure, you can't reboot a film in a universe that hasn't been rebooted yet. So we will just see. Here's another great article from The Hollywood Reporter, and it says, how the Batman cast will shape a new Gotham. The casting of Jeffrey Wright and Jonah Hill hints at a new direction for Matt Reeves' Dark Knight. Matt Reeves' Gotham City is steadily coming together, brick by brick, with new casting discussions increasing the already high anticipation for his upcoming The Batman. Robert Pattinson was officially cast as Bruce Wayne Batman in May, and since the news broke, speculation has run rampant as to who would be joining him, and if they would share any ties to the Gotham City featured in Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice 2016. Or Justice League 2017. On Monday, we learned Jeffrey Wright and Jonah Hill are in talks to join Pattinson in The Batman, with Wright taking on the role of James Gordon and Hill up for either the part of the Riddler or the Penguin. Wouldn't surprise me if Jonah is playing the Penguin, actually. People seem pretty sure it was the Riddler, but I think that Jonah Hill is a very talented guy, and I think he could pull off either character. Wright's casting of Gordon further cements that Reeves' Batman will stand apart from the continuity established with Ben Affleck's take on the character. Yeah, let's read that again. Reeves' Batman will stand apart from the continuity established with Ben Affleck's take on the character. These latest castings talks also provide some perspective on what we can expect from Gotham this time around when it comes to cops and criminals. James Gordon is, of course, a mainstay in the Batman mythos, and his role in Reeves' upcoming film doesn't come as a surprise. The character was most recently portrayed by J.K. Simmons in Justice League, though the most well-known live-action portrayal of the character was Gary Oldman's in Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy. Oldman's portrayal was just about as comic accurate as casting could get, and his relationship with Batman defined a significant amount of emotional crux of those films. That's correct. Writer Wonderful Chameleon will undoubtedly bring his own voice and weight to the role. He's no stranger to playing men who seem to have weight of the world on their shoulders, and he has eyes that convey a constant sense of having seen some shit. Yes, he does actually. I think he's great casting, by the way. Given Patterson's casting as Batman, we expect that Wayne is early in his career, but more seasoned than a year one 1987 or Batman Begins 2005 take. Nolan's Dark Knight films chronicled Gordon's rise from police sergeant to commissioner, and in the comics his career in Gotham began as a detective, but it wouldn't be surprising to see Wright's Gordon already begin in the film as police commissioner. I think that's what we all want to see. We don't want to see what we saw in the Dark Knight trilogy again, as great as it was, leaving the detective angle up to Batman himself. Throughout Reeves' filmography, he has displayed an interest in partnerships and friendships and mutually beneficial relationships through which peace, sometimes temporary, is built. We saw this in Let Me In 2010 and more recently in Dawn of the Planet of the Apes 2014 and War for the Planet of the Apes 2017. One of the core aspects of Batman is that he never works alone, and since the beginning of his crusade he has always been reliant on the cooperation and participation of others, where Nolan tackled this by showcasing how Gordon and Batman were able to rise together. Reeves has opportunity to shift the perspective of that narrative with a more beleaguered Gordon who believes he has seen the worst of what Gotham has to offer, and a Batman who still believes he can change the city from within. Gordon and Batman are two pillars of Gotham and the foundation through which heroism is built. The third pillar, crumbling, crooked and threatening to bring the whole city down, is the criminal element. Reeves has confirmed that Batman will feature a rogues gallery of villains, and while there's yet to be confirmation on how many, Penguin, Riddler and Catwoman are all expected to play a part. Reeves has also Reeves has also shared his interest in creating a mystery, a story that puts Batman's detective skills to work in ways that have never been seen on film before. The noir emphasis and existence of multiple potential suspects in the form of Batman's rogues immediately calls to the mind Batman's works of Jeff Loeb, whose arcs The Long Halloween. Actually, Boba Talks said this on his video. Go and check him out. Dark Victory 1999 and Hush 2002 are defining gateway Batman stories. With Hill up for either the role of the Penguin or the Riddler, those stories may provide some clues to what we can expect from those characters. Penguin, aka Oswald Cobblepot, is often utilised as the bridge between the old crime families of Gotham and the freaks who began to emerge more frequently with Batman's sighting. While there's no telling how grounded Reeves will be in his approach, I expect his take on the Penguin to be entirely unlike Danny DeVito's incredible, monstrous interpretation in Tim Burton's Batman Returns. One of my favourite Batman films, by the way. Don't care if you don't like it. It's an awesome film. And no, it wasn't overcrowded. A crime boss with his own taste for the theatrics, operating out of his club, the Iceberg Lounge, seems to be the most likely bet. Penguin's role as a crime boss who hides his illegal activities through his club and keeps Gotham's criminals in line has resulted in a temporary peace between him and Batman. And once again, going back to Reeves' thematic consideration of contemporary peace established by warring parties, I wouldn't be surprised to see Batman and the Penguin as reluctant allies, which would be awesome. Recent portrayals of the Penguin have also focused on his relationship to Bruce Wayne and the parallels between them as sons of two of Gotham's oldest families. If Reeves is looking for a Penguin closer in age to Wayne, then it may suggest closer ties between the two and a portrayal not far removed from the version seen in Telltale's Batman game. It's entirely plausible that Penguin is central to life of both Bruce Wayne and Batman, which would be very, very interesting, wouldn't it? And by the way, Jonah Hill isn't just a comedian. He's doing serious movies as well now. He's a very talented guy and he can pull either character off. As for the Riddler, Loeb's characterization differs from how the villain is commonly portrayed, but the payoff is grand. In The Long Halloween and Dark Victory, Edward Nygma is portrayed as a neurotic coward, hardly a physical threat to Batman. Later in Hush, it's established that Batman never took the Riddler as seriously as his other adversaries. And so when the villain found out he had a brain tumor and only months to live, he hatched a plan utilising Batman's rogues in an effort to separate Batman from those he cared about and prove himself as Batman's greatest threat. The throat's not doing very well, is it? Will we continue? In 2006, the Riddler reformed and became a consulting detective whose genius and legal methods threatened the existence of Batman. He was an unexpected choice for the Riddler, and that's what makes him perfect for the role, I agree. Either role, to be honest. Even more so than the Penguin, the challenge to take Hill seriously as a villain would mirror Batman's own thoughts about the character, good point, which could lead to a thrilling revelation and performance shift of all of Batman's villains. The Riddler feels the most in need for a return to the big screen, an actor who could offer a surprising take on a character that forces him to be taken seriously by general audiences again, and by Batman at the same time. That is a very interesting dynamic, isn't it? I like it. Casting for the Batman is only just beginning in earnest, and Reeves' vision will become clearer with each announcement. But for now, we know Gordon will appear, and it's likely both Riddler and Penguin will play a role, alongside Batman, in shaping this latest iteration of Gotham City and the future of the franchise. If Reeves' past directorial efforts can be looked at as evidence, then we can expect the relationships between these characters to result in an incredible payoff that will help define Batman and his mythos for the next generation. You know what? If what this person in this article is saying, this is a fabulous article. Thank you for that, because that article excites me. I was excited for this film. I hear the name Matt Reeves, and that's excitement enough. But if this is right, that they kind of curtail the kind of history between the Cobblepot family and the Wayne family, and there's this special kind of Smallville type of Lex and Clark relationship between Bruce Wayne and Cobblepot. That is going to be powerful. That is going to be massive. And, you know, whatever character the actor plays, Jonah Hill is a man of multi-talents. You know, he's multifaceted. And I think he's a high-profile actor who can really put butts in seats. Not that Batman doesn't do that already. I think we can expect a fabulous special movie in the likes of Batman that we haven't seen before. So we haven't got much DCEU news. We know that the shooting has started on the Suicide Squad. James Gunn pictured with some of the cast members. I'm sure it's not ironic to you that he cast. I'm surprised he's not in a cast photo with everyone. That's kind of concerning, but still excited for his take on the Suicide Squad. And basically, things are happening. Kathy Yan posted on her Instagram just a few days ago that there are no more reshoots. There's no more to do with Birds of Prey, The Emancipation of One Harley Quinn, which would say they were never reshoots and they were just pickups. And this is what happens when you listen to Grace Randolph. She's had it in for that film, DC and Warner Brothers, for a long time. She's not going to win, and she's having to block so many people now, so many DC fans, and that would prove, wouldn't it? But she's actually not a DC fan herself. Anyway, we've spoken about a lot of things. We're nearly up to 40 minutes for this video. It's going to take a century to upload, but worth it. I hope you enjoyed the articles that I read. I hope you have a very strong opinion on my Joker opinion and how, you know, these Aurora victims, as tragic as what's happened to them is, you know, a film shouldn't be connected to it and people should be allowed to make their movies. And then, of course, I've read this wonderful article about the Batman. And as I say, if any of it's true, we have got one hell of a trilogy coming to us. Please like, share and subscribe.